I'm Will Ripley in Pyongyang, North Korea. This is CNN.
It's 1932. The stock market has crashed and it has not been getting any better. Many are out of work and children are suffering drastic changes in their education. This is the Great Depression and it is affecting everyone. The election of 1932 is and will be one of the most influential elections of all time. The election brings hope as new and old candidates have entered the playing field. Democratic nominee Franklin Delano Roosevelt, commonly referred to as FDR, was the governor of New York in 1928. Our other candidate is a well-known businessman and inventor, Herbert Hoover. He was named the head of the Food Administration during Wilson's presidency and was elected president in 1928. The economy has crashed due to constant overspending and leftover debt. People blame Hoover for letting the Depression take its course without interfering, because he had a belief that it would end by itself. But it might never have ended without action. The people wanted someone who would take care of them, someone who would save them from themselves. At the end of the new era, the economy was booming and business was going on as usual. Due to overspeculation and rapid expansion, the stock market reached its peak in the August of 1929. The stocks, though, were not at their real price because of debt, unemployment, and lack of production. Numerous other reasons were low wages, the proliferation of debt, a struggling agricultural sector, and an excess of large bank loans that could not be liquidated. Due to this, on October 29, 1929, the day known as Black Tuesday, stock prices completely fell, and billions of dollars were lost in trade. Even the machines collapsed due to heavy trading and could not calculate the sheer number of trades that were occurring at this time. People viewed Hoover negatively because he did not do anything about the stock market crash, but rather let it go on, thinking that it would resolve itself.
Herbert Hoover was the Republican secretary under Coolidge and Harding. He was the head of U.S. Food Administration in Europe and was fondly known as the Great Engineer. He was elected in 1928.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt was a Democratic governor of New York. He ran for vice president in 1920 on a losing ballot. He was also the assistant secretary of the Navy appointed by Wilson and had polio and only wanted pictures above his waist.
Toward the end of Hoover's administration, the country faced a banking crisis. This was due to the fact that after World War I, banks made numerous risky loans to people they knew that could never pay back. Between the time FDR was elected and when he officially took office, the banking system reached the verge of collapse. Real estate groups failed. The stock market, which had collapsed in 1929, had not shown any improvement. Also, agricultural prices dropped due to the excessive overproduction of crops by farmers. The banks, which were already struggling with money, had a hard time giving out loans to people who needed them. This problem especially became magnified when people started drawing out money from the banks, creating an even shakier banking system.
At the end of his term, Herbert Hoover was very indecisive. He refused to take action without the explicit support of the upcoming President Roosevelt.
On March 4th, the day of Roosevelt's inauguration, every state in the Union had either stopped their banking operations or had to stop depositors from accessing their money to save their banks from even further distress. Here is a video of his inauguration.
Rejected by the hearts and minds of men. True, they have tried, but their efforts have been cast in the pattern of an outworn tradition. Faced by failure of credit, they have proposed only the lending of more money. Stripped of the lure of profit by which to induce our people to follow their false leadership, they have resorted to exhortations, pleading tearfully for restored confidence. They only know the rules of a generation of self-seekers. They have no vision, and when there is no vision, the people perish. Yes, the money changers have fled from their high seats in the temple of our civilization. We may now restore that temple to the ancient truth. The measure of that restoration lies in the extent to which we apply social values, more noble than mere monetary profit. Happiness lies not in the mere possession of money. It lies in the joy of achievement, in the thrill of creative effort. The joy, the moral stimulation of work no longer must be forgotten in the mad chase of evanescent profit. These recognition of that falsity of material wealth as the standard of success goes hand in hand with the abandonment of the false belief that public office and high political positions are to be valued only by the standard of pride of place and personal profit. And there must be an end to a conduct in banking and in business which too often has given to a sacred trust the likeness of callous and selfish wrongdoing.
To let the banks recuperate, Roosevelt closed the banks for 4 days and called it a 4-day holiday. He then summoned Congress for an emergency session. In that emergency session, the Emergency Banking Relief Bill was passed, with such unprecedented support that it was signed into law immediately. This gave the government the opportunity to reopen solvent banks and reorganize remaining banks. FDR's New Deal called for a National Industrial Recovery Act, or the NIRA. The NIRA allowed businesses to cooperate in crafting an industry-wide set of regulations. Participating businesses would limit production and set workers' wages. The National Recovery Administration's symbol was the Blue Eagle. The Blue Eagle would be displayed by businesses. Consumers were urged to only buy from businesses that displayed the Blue Eagles. The big businesses who took part in the NIRA were able to easily manipulate the codes and regulations to cater to them, causing this to be a big problem. Agricultural Adjustment Act. The Agricultural Adjustment Act controlled farmers by restricting the production of certain crops and livestock while providing them subsidies for decreasing their production. This act was made to stop the overproduction of crops and livestock. The farmers were given money to make up for their losses because they had to destroy their livestock and their crops in order to drive up the price for these things.
The American people were infuriated, especially since farmers were killing off the livestock and burying crops under dirt. They were hungry. They couldn't understand why anyone would just waste their food. The government also unintentionally allowed tenants and sharecroppers to lose their jobs because of the landlords. The landlords decided not to house them anymore and kicked them off.
Later, the Supreme Court found the AAA unconstitutional, just like it found the NIRA unconstitutional. But due to its popularity among farmers, the AAA was rewritten to fit the legislation provided by the Supreme Court and farm subsidy. Roosevelt moved quickly to implement $3 billion in relief for funds for the poor.
Certain New Dealers were against the idea of direct payments to the poor. they essentially believed their own idea of teaching a man to fish versus giving a man one fish.
New Dealers resisted direct payment and wanted to pay people for their work. As one New Dealer, Harry Hopkins, the head of the Federal Emergency Relief Administration, said, "Give a man a doll, and you save his body and destroy his spirit. Give him a job, and pay him an assured wage, and you save both the body and the spirit." As a result of this, the Civil Works Administration hired 4 million people, each earning approximately $15 an hour, and the Civilian Conservation Corps paid young unmarried men $1 a day to do outdoors labor. This would emphasize work relief. The Public Works Administration was created for construction projects, providing employment for men in the construction industry. This would result not only in economic development, but infrastructure development such as public schools, sewer systems, and major construction such as the Grand River Dam.
Women also did receive relief funds from the government. However, though, the amount they received was pitifully small compared to the men. The federal officials decided that they wouldn't discriminate against those who essentially deserved it and those who did not deserve it. However, the local officials didn't. They didn't believe that everyone who was poor or struggling essentially deserved the relief fund, especially towards women. If certain women had moral ethics that essentially clashed with the local officials, they wouldn't be able to receive the relief fund.
The result of Roosevelt. On June 16, 1933, a special session of Congress was held, and Roosevelt stated in 3 months the United States had made a rebound. For the remainder of 1933 to mid-1934, more New Deal bills would be passed and unemployment rates would fall.
The 1930s would bring the Great Depression. It would affect everyone. The poor got poorer and the rich got richer. However, the one man would come in and save the day. His name was Franklin Delano Roosevelt. However, many people wanted to essentially get out of the Great Depression. He would not do that. He would prevent America, who's already failing economically, from failing any further. For him, his major goal was to prevent America from essentially falling into chaos. To get out of the Great Depression. That is a job for the Germans. On behalf of everyone from the decade, we wish everybody at period 9-10 a good day. Thank you.